Welcome back, y'all, to Let's Talk About It with the Clarks. I'm Chad.
I'm Tiffany.
And today we're going to get into a story about the Delphi murders. It's a long unfolding story that Tiffany's been researching for a while now. We thought it would be something to share with you guys, see what you think about it. Here's our twist on it, and with that, I'll hand it over to you.
So yeah, we talked about covering this case a couple of times, and it's just so many twists and turns in this one as well, and not really sure what we could share. Like we said a many times, we're pretty new to this, not sure what terms we can use yet, but we're just going to go for it. It's not really about those things for us anyway. We're just here to...
We just say what we say and let the chips fall where they may.
Right. So it's a case that has recently, on Friday, had a breakthrough. Richard Ricky Allen was arrested around noon on Friday in connection to the murders of Abby Williams and Libby German. Those two girls were out on the Delphi Bridge, I guess just kind of sightseeing. I'm not real sure why they went there that day. Their parents and Libby's sister has said that, to their knowledge, they weren't going to meet anybody. They were out of school for, like, they had some catch-up days where it didn't snow, so they had an extra day off that day on February 13th, 2017. And as they're on that bridge, Libby is cognizant enough that she takes out her phone and she starts to video a guy that is walking towards them. I don't know if she just had a bad feeling about him. I don't know, but I'm glad that she took her phone out and got the footage that she did. His face wasn't easily seen in the video, but they did release...
He had a scarf or something
there
covering the
seems
bottom
to
part of
be
his face,
something
right?
there. I've looked at it so many times over the years, and it's just really hard to tell what's covering his face, but it looks like something is covering the bottom half of his face in the photo. But then there was people that were also there that day that described seeing him. So there was two sketches over those years of what possibly could be this guy and what he looked like, and we'll include that later in this video for you guys to see. And I think one of them even has his current picture overlaid in it, so you can do the comparison. But like I said, they were there. She takes out her phone, or she had it out. They're taking pictures, and she starts to video this guy walking towards them.
Oh, if it's two young girls, I'm pretty sure they had their phones already in their hand.
Oh, yeah. But she, flips over and she's videoing him, and he's walking towards them. And at some point, he says to them, "Guys, down the hill." And so he becomes known as Bridge Guy. And it was later in that day that, unfortunately, both of those girls would meet their demise at this guy's hands, it's presumed. Him, or maybe a lot of people were involved. To me, it seems like there were at least two people involved in this. The family would report them missing later that day. They would be found of the evening the next day next to the Mona High trails there in Delphi. And they have really kept the details of this case extremely close to the cuff. There were more audio and video from what Libby had gotten, and they haven't released that. I think it's like 8 seconds that they did release, and there's 53 seconds of the video. And when they found the girls, they did not release cause of death or anything. They just said that,
They had been found.
They had been found, and then the way they had been found, it looked like it was a calling card. Later in the years, there would be a podcast that had gotten a hold of some of the records of the case that's, very gruesome. We won't really go into details of that here. But suffice it to say, they said it would be hard in the way that these girls were done in for there not to be a lot of evidence on that person's clothing. And it seemed like that they had taken something from it as a souvenir from the scene of the crime, and that the girls, after what was done to them, had been posed. And then people have investigated, people have looked into it, they've rallied, they've really pushed for this to be solved. And it's just so exciting that, here comes Friday around noon and we find out that someone has been taken into custody.
5 years later.
5 years.
Kudos to the law enforcement in this case that, they stayed on it. They didn't, let it become a cold case and just let it pass into the halls of history. So again, kudos to the officers involved here.
It was found out after the girls met their demise that Libby had been in contact with, either through Instagram, Snapchat, one of those platforms, with a guy named Keegan Klein, and he was catfishing several young girls that he was grooming as Anthony Schatz, a very attractive model who would later become a police officer.
Who turned out to be a police officer, right?
Well, he was a male model at the time that he took his photos and everything from online, and then he would eventually become a police officer. So,
wow,
yeah. And I think that through Keegan, because Keegan has been in custody, through their investigation from his connection to Libby, they found that he was in possession of a lot of CP and other inappropriate materials that shows, that he was grooming young girls as young as 11 and 12 years old.
Absolutely disgusting.
Absolutely. And his trial started recently. And when his trial started, we seen them. Well, there was a podcast. Let me go back. There was a podcast. Some investigators were doing some information on this case. And from that, they go and search, what is the river? Let me think. It was a river there in...
The one that runs up under this bridge?
The Wabash River, which is like 40 miles east of the site of the crime. They searched that river, and then the trial started a couple of weeks ago for Keegan, and then we see the investigation pick up again, and they are searching in the backyard of this guy, Ricky Allen, in a flower bed. And so I guess that goes back to when those police reports that podcast released, saying that, it looked like they had taken a souvenir from the scene of this crime, and whatever it was, I believe they found it there in that flower garden in his backyard.
So there was a father and son using the same account that catfished this young girl, one of the two of them, right?
Yes.
And they were doing this to several other young girls, and they again shared this this login or this account, and
that's Keegan and his father Tony.
Despicable.
And it was, people thought for a long time that Keegan and Tony would have been the ones that did this.
Right.
And then, of course, you had to factor in Ron Logan. He was an older guy who the girls were found on his property. And he told him that day that he was with a friend who drove him to an aquarium store. And it would come later, they would find out, because the friend, corroborated his story and told him, I drove him over to this other, city that was close by, to the aquarium store. We're together from 2 to 5. He even tells him a time frame to tell him, that I'm with you during this time. A guy calls 2 days later and says, I can't keep lying for him. I'm finding out now everything that went on and how he was connected. I wasn't with him. So then Ron Logan tells him, the reason I lied is because I wasn't supposed to be driving that day. I don't have a license. And I thought I would get in trouble because I didn't have a license. So,
right.
But
that just goes, if you guys are part of an investigation, and it's better just to come on out and tell them the truth than to try to BS your answers, because one, you're hindering the investigation. Obviously, they're going to charge you with that. Whereas if you're just driving, without a license, chances are that's going to be so, far down on the radar that, it's not going to make any sense. But it seems like this guy was trying to get the police off his trail entirely because he had a lot more to hide than just the fact that he drove without a license, right?
That's the way I felt about it. I mean, like I said, everything is supposed, everything is alleged, you know, and just from following the case and reading what I read about it and, you know, digging into Ron Logan's past, I felt like and I still do, I feel like he had something to do with it. I think that there is a connection between Tony and Keegan still to this case. You know, I'm going to kind of go into that more later. The connection that I feel still exists there, and I do think that Keegan gave them, it kind of pointed towards it. But what really got me excited about coming on today is that going through and digging today, in a Facebook post comment, a lady puts up a post from 4chan in 2020, and I want to get this right. I want to tell you guys correctly, and I'm going to put that. Also, it'll be in the video for you guys to see.
I'm going to put it up on the screen right now, so you'll see it.
The 4chan user tells them in a thread that the killer's name was Richard, and supposedly, you know, this is turned in. This is a group where, you know, they're going through and sharing details of the case and wanting to find out more and trying to help. And this guy's on 4chan. It's almost seems like mumbling. I'm not real sure what he's trying to say.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to follow the way that he puts the sentences and stuff together. So you guys can read along with us.
I don't know if it's grammatically correct.
Right.
Is what I guess what I'm saying. It says, what you all fail to interpret about small town civics is the manner in which fall into each other in a public square. One cannot find happiness or fortitude with a simple game and keep their daughters safe from such predators. This man will get away with everything. I didn't want to come out and say it, but I lived in Delphi for years without a doubt. Richard is not a well-known man in town. I've been monitoring the thread. City dwellers do not understand how such a place works or local police kinship without community dealings unto itself and more. Please do not ask me why the simple man rules outward.
So
It's really hard to follow.
Yeah, so it sounds like to me he's saying you guys don't understand how it works in these small rural towns. Obviously, saying city dwellers will not understand, and then he goes on to say that even though the guy's not well known, he believes that he will get away with everything, and he doesn't know why he rules outward, meaning he projects power or intimidation or something along those lines. He doesn't understand why he does that because he's not well known. So that's just how I interpreted it.
Well, I think that he didn't mean to say he's not well known. I think he meant to say that he's well known, and that's why he rules outwardly and why he's got these dealings, which just baffles me, because I know from doing research, from, you know, keeping up with this case, I mean, this sheriff, he really wanted this guy caught. He cared. He seemed to. I mean, if that was an act, it was a really good act.
Right. Emmy Award winning.
Absolutely. I don't think there's any connection to the police in this case. I don't think that they're trying to cover things up. I do think there's a cover. I think it goes over the police's head. I believe, and I've thought for a very long time, that this was a case connected to human trafficking in a huge way. I think that, I'm not sure if it was Keegan or if it was Tony. I think that they were grooming Libby. I think that they had her come to that bridge. That is a secluded place. I don't know that it would and I don't live in Delphi, and I've tried to find that out, if this would be somewhere that young girls would want to go and take pictures, and I just couldn't see myself.
If it was scenic, or if it was,
I know it was scenic.
Somewhere to meet out away from, prying eyes.
Oh, it definitely was.
Big Brother, whatever you want to call it.
It was beautiful. It's a scenic place. I mean, it's a historical site, but it is really it's out there by itself, and I don't understand why these girls would want to go there alone. And I wouldn't want to go there alone. It's creepy, and other people have been there and didn't want to be on that bridge alone. It's not a secure bridge.
Well, and here's the thing: is they probably did not plan on being there alone. They probably planned on meeting a suitor there. There's someone who was, they were talking to online, and I don't know how many people she or they were talking to in different, websites and so forth and so on. But I mean, I believe that they didn't plan on being alone very long. I think that they were planning on meeting a suitor there.
I do too. I think that's why Abby took the phone out. I mean, sorry. I think that's why Libby started recording. I think the phone was already out. So I think that's why she started recording. She's expecting somebody else to come down that bridge. She's expecting this young person closer to her age, this person she'd been talking to, and then it hits her.
I've been catfished.
Not only that, I'm in trouble.
So.
And why they didn't run, I don't understand. Why they didn't scream. Because obviously there's other people there. There's that have seen him. And I don't know if they're just absolutely, completely alone at that time that, he's coming. I know looking at it, they're alone in that general area. But like I always tell our kids, do whatever you got to do. Scream to the top of your lungs. Scream fire. Scream anything. Kick, fight, punch, bite. Do whatever you got to do.
Anything. Whatever it is to become an unwilling participant.
Right. And I don't care what they tell you they're going to do to you. If you do that, they're going to do it anyway. Do it. I don't know that they didn't, because they didn't release the rest of the footage. You just hear him say, guys, down the bridge. And it sounds like more of a command. And it sounds very stern. And I think they were scared. I think they were super scared. But I think she was scared even before that moment. I think when she seen him, she recognized in that moment, oh no. This is not what this is supposed to be.
They're definitely here for us, and their intentions are not admirable.
And it's just so sad. And like I said, I'm just super excited about the fact that they have now gotten him. The family members and other people have been posting for right at 5 years. Today will be the day. Today will be the day. Friday was the day. And,
Friday was the day.
Her sister shared that. Kelsey shared that. Kelsey German, which is Libby's sister, has been super active in this case, keeping it from, going cold.
Falling by the wayside.
She posted today was the day. And that, just kind of gave me chills that they finally got to say that. But then to read that somebody had just out now in 2020 named him. There's a name. It's the right name. And it just seemed like it wasn't investigated. It didn't seem to go anywhere. 2 years ago. That's 2 years. I know a lot was going on in 2020. I know COVID was really bad. But you have a name of a person. And they're saying they're in Delphi. I mean...
And it's somebody's job, to continue to investigate this crime. So again...
I don't care if there's 1,000 Richards in Delphi. You go through every one of them. You try to find the connection. You search every single one of those Richards. So that's just me on that. He was booked in, like I said, on Friday to the Carroll County Jail around noon, and immediately moved to protective custody for his safety. And I know we all have to say that people are presumed innocent until found guilty. But that's really not what I wanted them to do with him.
Right.
So.
And like I said, I'm hoping that the evidence that they have is an open and shut case. I hope it doesn't get drug out in court. The family has been through enough. However, I do hope that he does get his day in court, and again it is done correctly, because again, it doesn't do any good to take somebody off the street that wasn't the actual perpetrator. So
that, and I don't want him to get Epsteined.
Yeah.
Protective custody would always seem like a good idea in this case, to keep them protected so that we can, get to the moment of seeing him have his day in court. But it doesn't always go that way.
Yeah.
And with the deep connections with Poshmark and everything, I don't want to name too many names. I don't want to get into that, but I mean, it's in the records. It's there. What Keegan Klein and Tony Klein were connected with, what accounts they were using when they were grooming these girls. I don't really want to get into putting those names out and them coming for us, but it's there. It's in the records if you want to go and look at it. I just really feel like it could be one of those things. It could end up that he doesn't see his day in court if they don't take really good care of him.
So, I guess backing up and getting some of the details of this thing. So they go out to this bridge on
February 13th.
February 13th of
2017.
They are approached. She gets a video. They are found
later the next day.
On
Ron Logan's property.
On Ron Logan's property.
Which is just right there off of the, beside the bridge on the trails.
Right. And then, so they investigate, obviously, the gentleman and his, I'll use that term loosely, the gentleman and his father.
Well, they come to the connection through her social media.
Gotcha.
And find that she was being groomed, and that takes them to Keegan, and Keegan tells them from there, me and my father both were sharing this account.
Yeah. So he started out lying to him with an alibi.
No, that was Ron Logan.
Okay.
Where the bodies were found.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so you've got those two guys. So I mean, they followed up on them until they found these things on their computer. So at least they were able to get those, two people off of the street as well.
I think he had like 30 felony charges from what they found on his computer.
Wow. Wow. And the children that were put through horrible things that they were put through to get that material just absolutely enrages me. But anyway, they're able to get them off of the street through good investigating and following up, and then we move on. So were any charges brought up against the guy whose property they were found on?
Ron Logan. They never could actually find a deep, verifiable connection to him with the murders, other than the fact that they were found on his property, which they do believe, and it was stated in the police files that were released on that podcast later in the years, that they believe the girls were done in somewhere else and then moved
to that property to get rid of them. And as we all know,
or to hide them.
The chances are, if they're going to get rid of bodies, it's not going to be on their own land. So that makes sense to me. You know what I'm saying?
Richard Allen ends up, once we find out who he is and they arrest him, he lived 5 miles from this bridge, so he literally could have walked there that day and did what he did. And that's one of the things that the investigators and the sheriff kept saying. We feel like this is somebody local. We feel like this is somebody we've talked to before, and we're coming for you.
And during the release, they literally said you could be in this room right now, or
during
hearing
one
my
of
voice.
the conferences, he said you could be in this room right now. I think I've probably questioned you before, and just know I'm coming for you.
It's just a small community, and they had obviously talked to a lot of people, and they just had to have the time to connect the dots. So
I just don't think that if Keegan would have ever, I have to believe that since the trial started for Keegan, and then we get this new information, this breakthrough, that Keegan turned this information in. He worked out a deal. He was like, you're eventually going to find my connection to this. You're going to see what part my hands played in it. And so if you'll give me this plea deal, I'll actually give you the right name. I'll give you the one you've been looking for.
Wow. Which
is sad that it took that long for him to break. But again, if it's, I'd rather be sitting in jail than give certain information, Some information is detrimental. Some information, once it's spoken, you're done. And the rabbit hole that I go down with all that. And it's really hard to discuss this case and not say those things and not give the information that and you feel it in your heart that it's absolutely true beyond a shadow of a doubt, but you can't say the things that you feel and that because you're either a conspiracy theorist or you run the risk of those people really coming for you. And I'm not just talking financially, and I'm not just it's really hard when you're dealing
the whole
with that.
thing is one, call me a conspiracy theorist all day long if I've got the evidence, what I'm saying, and I truly believe that in my heart of hearts that this particular thing happened. I'm gonna scream it from the rooftops, what I'm saying, especially if it keeps somebody else from getting hurt,
But you can. But
all I got to say is,
those pockets run
come
deep.
for me if you want, but it can go both ways. But again, with the world of doxing that we live in and all of that, a lot of people are scared to put themselves out there on Front Street alone and to say the things that it's one of those where they always say it's the prisoner's paradox, right? Obviously, there are more prisoners in a prison than there are guards. So if all the prisoners were to band together, so
Right.
obviously in this, prisoners or citizens or, employees of a particular business, all of these where you have the majority being wronged or hurt or run down or whatever you want to call it by, a smaller number of individuals. If they all band together, then they can truly make a difference. But they're, like they say in the prisoner's paradox, you plan it and it takes everyone actually living up to their plan, following the plan, to actually have something done about it. And what happens more times than not is, the individual sits back and says, well, things aren't perfect, but they could get worse. They could put me in solitary confinement, or they could add time to my sentence, so forth, so on. And they end up not joining the fight, so to speak. And that's, kind of what I believe the biggest problem in, our society is today, is that people don't want to speak out for fear of losing some, creature comfort. And obviously in some cases you could lose a lot more than a creature comfort. But again, just coming together and knowing the power that we have as, citizens is the big thing. And before they had, the internet and the ability to share information the way that we share it, and follow up and things of that nature. Like I said, obviously it was a lot more difficult, but in that comes the fact that they, the tool can be used on both sides. So the sword cuts both ways.
Absolutely.
And, all of the information can be found on you as well. And so it's just, again, it cuts both ways. So
it usually does not end well for anybody that digs too deep into human trafficking. And it's just a fact.
And the problem is that it starts at the top, you know what I'm saying? But there's obviously a lot of money,
Corruption.
and corruption that takes place, and that's why it doesn't get any better. you know. And it's sad, you know, the world that we live in, and you know, I believe that Trump and his you know, wife did a lot to squash you know, the human trafficking, especially, you know, when it came to children. There were, you know, a lot of busts of great magnitude that came through during his presidency. Like I said, have we seen any of that under Biden? We've not seen any of that, have we? We've seen a lot of, you know, him sniffing kids and you know, all that kind of good stuff, but we've not seen anyone being you know, huge arrests being made of numerous people in an organization, or just a myriad web of, you know, child trafficking and so forth, so on. So, like I said, you know, say what you will about Trump. You know, the proof is in the pudding. You know what I'm saying? There were a lot of good things that happened during his presidency. They couldn't get over the fact that, you know, he had a mouth on him. You know what I'm saying? I'd much rather have somebody with a mouth on them and gas back down to, you know, $2 a gallon. And, you know, more children being safe and you know, us literally being energy independent. And, you know, all of these things that I had, and, you know, have a mumbling, you know, bumbling, you know, president. It makes no sense to me how you would say, you know, he hurt my feelings, and that's worth so much more than the results that he brought to the table, you know. But they say facts don't care about your feelings.
No, they don't, and that's a huge, you know, subject in and of itself.
Right.
The fact that even Biden is allowed to do and say and be known on video to do some of the things that he does concerning children.
Yeah.
And nothing. It's just, it is in your face, but what are you going to do about it? And, you know, that bothers me. I mean, and that's a huge rabbit hole that I go on a lot. You know, kids are our weak spot. It's hard. I mean, that's what really got me into true crime. Many, many years ago, I started reading the story of why Johnny can't come home. And
oh, yeah. We've had many a conversation about this one. And it is so strange, you know what I'm saying, that you literally can't make some of these things up, you know, and that one was one of them. And,
yeah, Maureen, his mom, Johnny's mom, just still to this very day, it breaks my heart for her. I know there were conspiracy theories around before that. I think they've been around since the beginning of time. But I think that right there, that's when they coined conspiracy to make her look like she was crazy.
Yeah. You know, they brought all of her, you know, shortcomings, whether real or imagined, out to the forefront in order to discredit her and try to, you know, make it sound like she was an absolute nut. And like I said, did she have all of the facts absolutely correct? Maybe not, like you said, but there was enough, you know, evidence there to point that something was definitely going on. Something wasn't right, and and in my opinion, a huge part of what she said was the absolute truth.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's been verified. I mean, back then, late 70s, early 80s, it was so much harder to prove what she was saying. It was so much harder to even present this information.
She those of you who don't know, that was before the internet.
So, I mean, she has to write a book. And then when people are hearing about this book and what's in it, it is stranger than fiction. It sounds like she's lost a child, and in a very tragic way. He was kidnapped while he was delivering newspapers. And they never found him. And you would just have to read the story. You would have to do the research on it. It's really in depth.
If you guys are interested, please let us know. Like you said, it's an older story, but again, it is very entertaining.
Twists and turns in the, even the,
was
it, 2017, 2018, the case gets brought back up because of a news reporter who was asking soft questions of George Bush. And his name was Jeff Gannon. And it was Johnny Gosh. So
it was the Johnny that couldn't come home.
I truly, in my heart of hearts, believe it was Johnny. His mother said it was Johnny. It was a big deal. It went on to Nancy Grace. They researched Jeff Gannon, realized that he was not a reporter. He was not supposed to be in that room.
He didn't have the credentials, right? I mean, other than
credentials.
He didn't have the history. He had, the press pass or whatever.
Right.
But that was pretty much it.
He was a male prostitute.
Yeah, he had no history of being pressed, like you said. So the only evidence they had of him being a reporter was just the one badge that he was wearing that day. So, crazy.
I think he ended up saying that he was like a freelancer, independent, something of that nature. But I mean, he admits that his true, I guess, employment career path was a male prostitute. He was a online male model / prostitute, escort, however you want to say it, whatever is more proper. But and he says he feels for Maureen, which was Johnny's mom. And he comes on the Nancy Grace show, and she asked him pointedly, "Will you do a DNA test?" That's just it.
Negative.
He wouldn't do it. And after that, no one has seen or heard from Jeff Gannon. So, I mean, it's a really in-depth case, and like you said, if you guys want to hear about it,
a lot more to it than that. So, if you guys are interested in it, please let us know.
It runs deep. It's like connected to the Franklin cover-up and everything. So, I mean, it really runs deep, and I do feel for Maureen. She's been through a lot. She still goes through a lot. It would be hard. It would be hard to be Maureen, and to know that your kid's out there. If you believe her, you've since talked to your child, and your child has said, you got to let this go. If you don't, you're going to get us both killed. So.
Yeah. Yep.
I just think this whole thing runs super deep. And not that I'm afraid to touch on it, not that I'm like really scared. It's just that a lot of people will look at it and say, "Oh, they're kooky, crazy conspiracy theorists." When if it happens more than 60 times, is it still conspiracy or in coincidence, or is it just absolutely fact and nobody wants to accept it?
Yep.
So. I think the other crazy thing is bringing it back, reeling it back to what we were talking about. I've read a lot about Mr. Allen since he's been arrested. He has an alias because they said that, he didn't have an arrest record. He doesn't have a history. His neighbors and the people that, went to the local, he worked at the CVS. His murder happened in 2017, 2018. He goes on to become a licensed pharmacy tech. Worked at the CVS there in Delphi. Went to the local pub that was close to the CVS, and people said he was kind of normal, real quiet, but he didn't give them crazy vibes. He didn't give them sketchy vibes. His neighbors said that he was an all right guy, he just kept to himself. But the weird thing is, for all of 2017, there's no post by his wife on Facebook. There were posts, and a lot of them before then and after, but no posts from 2017. And she has since deleted her, Facebook page since his arrest, and I can't blame her. I know there's probably going to be a lot of people trying to contact her in person, online, by phone, however they can get to her. So I understand her deleting her Facebook, but it's a lot of maybe connecting information from his Facebook, the blue coat that Bridge Guy's wearing. He seems to be in a lot of her photos wearing as well. There's some clips of his voice, of course, with videos that she shared that isn't inconsistent with his voice. Like I said, we will.
And we're talking about the one where he says, "You
Guys
down the hill."
Down the hill, sorry.
Yeah, down the hill, and like I said, matching that up to again the voice clips from Facebook is what she's talking about here.
Right. And what really just stood out to me was reading an article, and it was a local paper to Delphi, Indiana, in which a family member of Libby German's confirms that she tells them after he gets arrested, "Holy crap, I went to that CVS to print photos for the funeral, and this guy waited on me. He was the one that helped me print these photos, and then he gave them to me for free."
Wow.
And she was still in shock from that. The people that work with him at the CVS are still completely in shock that he's been arrested in connection to this, and is possibly the guy that murdered these girls. There was one person that had worked with him for a very long time now, since 2018, that said, I was alone with him a lot, and I never suspected him for any of that. Yeah. And again, like I said, it's all alleged. We don't, innocent until proven guilty, but I truly believe they would not have arrested him if they didn't have a smoking gun, if they didn't have him nailed to the wall already.
5 years later, I'm not going to say they weren't in a hurry to make an arrest, but they had taken 5 years, so what would be a couple of more to make sure that they had him nailed to the wall, and make sure that they had all their ducks in a row. The evidence is quite damning and all of that, so you just have to assume that there's a damn good reason that they arrested him.
Absolutely. And there will be, family has, made their statements and said that, they can't release anything more. And the police department there in Delphi are saying, we're not going to say anything more right now, but Monday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, they're going to have a press release,
so
a
tomorrow,
conference. Right.
10 a.m.
So, and that's really all that I had for the breaking news on the case. I wish we would have been able to cover it before now, more in depth, but like I said, it was just one of those. It's just touchy.
Been looking
it's just
into
hard.
For a long
right.
time, and the fact that there was the information for the guy on 4chan coming out, with a name that actually matched 2 years ago, and then also the arrest taking place on Friday. Just really brought it back to the forefront, and again, wanted to get on here and share what we thought was interesting about it. You guys and gals, let us know what you think about it, what else you would like to see, all of the questions that you have, any comments, like, subscribe, and really share us with people, and let's get connected, so that we can all kind of work together to try to make a difference if we can. What's our purpose, if not to help others out whenever we can. So that's all that I've got. You just pulled out some more papers here.
I just wanted to say that today we're kind of wrap things up. I know we're kind of getting into a lot of time, but I do want to say that we want to cover the Quentin Simons case. That is a missing 20-month-old out of Savannah, Georgia. He came up missing from his home. He had been with his mother, who did not have custody of him. She was living with the grandmother, her mother, who had custody of the 2 sons that she has. And grandmother had to go out of town on a work assignment, and gets the call that mom didn't send the babies, because she has 3 children, 2 boys, and then a daughter that she does have custody of. Didn't send them to the babysitter that day, and Quentin he's missing. I know that the latest that I've heard is that they were searching a landfill for this child.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It really
seems heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking story.
Really seems like I won't say it. it seems like another really high-profile case where the mother got off for, in my opinion, harming that child. But seems like that to me. I believe it's going to end up coming down to mom. But
so that's one that you would like to cover. I would really like to cover the more about the young man, Jamarian, that again left with the 3 new friends one night and never came back. Like I said, I would really like to see if we can put together some more information on that. Draw some attention there. As much as we can with the influence that we have, and maybe somebody else will pick it up with more clout than we have.
I really wish that others that have a farther reach were more concerned with that case. I know it's Lithonia, Georgia. It's not really local to them, and they already have a suspect, but they have not made any arrest. This family has not gotten justice. They have not gotten peace. And Jamarian Crosby, he was a 13-year-old child, like I said, out of Lithonia, Georgia, that ended up being shot and left in a blue tarp in the woods. So I just feel like that case deserves more. He deserves more. He deserves the attention that, just like Gabby Petito got, just like Kylie Rodney got. Everybody deserves justice. His soul deserves peace, and I wish there was more coverage. I wish we had a farther reach to get him some more coverage. And my prayers go out to his family.
Either way, I would like to cover it, and we'll do what we can. And I just hope that you guys will reach out to other people. Let them know about the channel. If only for this particular one to help it get some traction. Again, I don't think it's getting the coverage that it deserves. So anyway, if you would be so kind as to look into that one, I would appreciate it greatly. I'm sure the family would as well. But definitely like to see some more on that one, and we'll get into the Quentin Simon. And
just be in prayer for his family, his grandmother. Those that love him and cared for him, that they find him. I wish they would find him alive, safe, and unharmed. That's my prayer. I don't think that's going to happen at this point, but it's my prayer. But just pray that they find him either way.
Yeah. So, do we have any more information? I guess nothing else is coming out of Debbie Collier, right? Or just
not other than the update that we gave yesterday. I'm hoping to hear more from that.
Which it literally, that's my bad, y'all. The video should have already been uploaded, but I did close the tablet before it was completely uploaded. So,
sorry.
My bad. But it should literally be uploaded any moment now as we're recording this one. So. But until then, again, like, subscribe, let us know what's on your mind, give us some comments. We do read every one of them. We do respond to every one of them. Obviously not that big of a tall order at this point, but again, would really like to know what you think as well. And until next time, we'll talk to you then.
Bye.